tell you what, I was looking at the fixtures, so I'm going to come to you definitely first on this, Kevin. They've got Newcastle next. Newcastle, a few weeks ago, or a month or two ago, you would say this was a six-pointer, the proverbial six-pointer. Newcastle look a lot safer now. Their loss tonight was their first in 9 matches. But after that, it's away to West Ham. Then they've got Manchester United, Merseyside derby at Anfield. Then they're hosting Chelsea. Then it's a trip to Leicester. Then they're home to Brentford. Away to Arsenal, and we know how strong they've been at home this season. And Everton versus Palace and Watford versus Everton. Those dates are to be confirmed because they were postponed. And they also have an FA Cup quarter-final encounter against Crystal Palace as well. That's not the easiest run-in for fixtures. Kev, how much trouble do you think Everton are in right now? Is Frank Lampard the right man to keep them up, to keep them safe in the Premier League? Something which he's never really experienced as a player because he was always at the top end of the table.
Yeah, listen, I think they made the change for the manager, for the betterment of the football club. And you ask me, where do I think Everton are? Everton are in serious trouble. Serious trouble. And do you know what? It's time for the players to step up. It's time for performances. And I'm sure we've all done it. You look at the fixture list and it looks like where you're going to get your next points from. But everybody knows you've got to take it one game at a time. The key is the home form. They didn't perform today in any way, shape or form. To lose to a goal like that, cross, and Connor Cody gets up in your box and heads it in, and you get a man sent off, you know, that tells you a lot. You don't even really see any attacks from Everton, etc. So there has to be a real thinking in that club of getting everyone together, and has to be a realization. Part of that thinking is a realization that it's a matter of not only rolling your sleeves up, but you've got to get on the front foot. And this is a fight now, Adam. You've got to scrap until the end of the season. Every single game. They've put themselves in this position. As we saw the previous table, Everton are what? 20 points or something worse off than 22 points worse off this season than they were last season. I mean, that's catastrophic form. So they've got to have that mentality that they're going to fight. And Frank Lampard, is he a fighter? Of course he's a fighter. Being able to fight at the top is similar to down at the bottom. So I think he's the right man for the job. I am worried 100%. I do think Everton will stay up, but I am worried, Adam. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I'm now getting flashbacks. I was 9 years old, 1994, Everton, Wimbledon, the Great Escape. I'm sure you remember this, Kevin. You're probably busy on the day itself in your own fixture, but getting that sort of sense once again this season. But if you're unsure what I'm talking about, Everton avoided relegation. It was very dramatic. 3-2 the final score, wasn't it, Kev, against Wimbledon? Yeah. It was, yeah.
Went right to the wire.
Right to the wire. I mean, this is going back 18 years ago, and I think Andy would have been about 6. So I don't think he would remember this particularly well. But I've also got to ask about some off-field issues concerning the club as well, because of the sanctions that have been imposed at Chelsea, similar-ish to what's happening at Everton. Funding has been pulled. They want to build a new stadium. And there's reports saying they could be breaching FFP, which would also mean a points deduction. I mean, that's out of their hands. But
well, could mean a points deduction. Not necessarily is going to. Look, because of the sanctions, Adam, we've seen what's happened at Chelsea. Obviously, Roman Abramovich has been, you know, the owner there for a long, 2 decades. Everton have kind of just got their funding a few years ago, etc. New owner with connections to obviously that part of the world. So again, once the sanctions get done, then you have to try and start distancing yourself from you know, whoever is a sponsor, whoever is a funder, etc. And that's what I believe Everton have done. Everton have stopped all sanctions towards Usmanov's companies or whatever, and that they're doing all that they can do as a football club. So does it seem like it's piling on? Yeah, it does seem like it's piling on. But if I'm honest, Adam, the club are doing whatever they can to make sure they stay on the right side of the sanction. And whatever will be with what the league want to do, obviously, you know, the league are going to obviously look at it and make their decisions down the road.
Yeah.
But first and foremost, Adam, it's what happens on the pitch. You know, you can't worry about what's going to go on in the future. You've got to deal with what's happening right now, and Everton just haven't been good enough.
Yeah. King, I need to get your take on this as well, because you've been part of a great escape yourself. Leicester, let's not forget, before they won the FA Cup, before they were playing in Europe, before they won the Premier League, they had to fight off relegation after being promoted. One of the greatest comeback stories, which just adds to the mythology of the Foxes. I can just imagine, instead of a Frank Lampard, a Nigel Pearson coming into Everton. I'm not saying he'll be 100% available, he would say yes. I'm just saying that sort of individual that has experience at the bottom of the table. There's a reason why clubs have quite often and successfully brought in managers that have fought off relegation in the past. Even Tony Pulis, when he did it, was it at Palace? He won the Manager of the Year, even though he managed only about half the season because of the job he did. Do you think, Andy, that Lampard is the man, given your experience of knowing what it's like to be at the bottom?
Yeah, I think he is. I think they've obviously looked at the list of candidates. There was no one else who sort of stood out to me. And listen, Frank Lampard's managed Chelsea and did, in my opinion, a pretty good job at Chelsea. So I think if you can get a manager of that caliber to go into your club, it's only going to be good. Managers usually are good or a great escape because they're managing a team who's nearer the bottom of the league. If you're managing a team who's nearer the top of the league, obviously everyone's manager journey is different, but usually the top managers manage the top teams. Now, did Frank Lampard get the Chelsea job because he was a player at Chelsea and they couldn't sign anyone, they had to use the academy? Probably, yeah, but he still did a good job there. He qualified them for the Champions League and stuff like that. So I think he's a good manager. I think he will keep Everton up. I think they are in trouble and it will be close. But I think he will keep them up. The only issue that I feel that they have is those players in that changing room probably think that they're too good to get relegated. Rather than if you look across at Burnley or Watford, not so much Burnley in recent years. Watford have just come up from the Championship. So if someone gave them at the start of the season a chance to be 2-3 points off safety with 10 games left, they would have snapped your hand off for it because they were expecting this kind of season. Burnley, they do this every year. They've been doing it for the last 5 years. They start near the bottom and then they'll win enough games to finish 15th or 16th. So again, it's not new for them. They've got players who've been there and done it. Sean Dyche knows how to stay off relegation with Burnley. The Everton players, they'll want to be playing in Europe. They'll want to be Champions League footballers. They'll see themselves as Europa League players, top half players. So the fact that they're now in a relegation battle, they're probably having to do things they're not used to, you know, go in the extra yard and maybe even a little bit of a lack of confidence. They're thinking, well, if we go down, I'll move, or if we go down, I'll get a move. That's not always the case. So I just think mentality-wise, it'll be a test for Everton as much as their ability to stay in the league.
Yeah, I think the other issue is keeping key players fit. We talked about Leicester. Well, Everton, Calvert-Lewin wasn't even in the squad today. He was that they played on Monday night. He can't seem to stay fit. Yerry Mina, there's an argument to be made that he's the best defender. He comes back and then gets injured usually in the same game. He can't seem to stay fit. So I guess time will tell on all fronts in the Premier League. But hey, that's why we love it, because it always delivers. There's always drama at the top, in the middle, at the bottom, whatever your team is, whoever your team is. There's always a narrative somewhere.